All right. It looks like I have you as a speaker now, Juan. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
Turn on my music here.
I can hear you better now. Very nice.
You can hear me good?
I can. Very
Oh,
nice.
sweet.
I have this recording so that people who are not here can always go back and listen to it.
Awesome.
So, one direction that you and I were talking about that we'd like to take this space is to look at the human perspective and the human elements and the different parallels of humanity in Caspa, because a lot of us have already heard a lot of the so called buzzwords, and there's a lot of talk about the fundamentals, and we don't really hear a whole lot about the human perspective in all of this. And so I figured it'd be nice to kind of have a conversation that explores some of those topics of philosophy and whatnot and hear some of what you have to say, because your story and what you have talked about is really intriguing to me. So I figured this would be good for us to pick each other's brains.
Yes, I love this. And you and I have gone back and forth on some voice notes after I've run spaces, and I've appreciated your input, specifically on me being more aware of how I speak and slowing down and all that. And I think so much of this topic and the human part of why we see Casper the way we see it, I think that's going to come more to the forefront. But yeah, we can get lost in the technical jargon, which all of it's important, right? But I
Yeah.
think I think touching on all this, because you bring a unique perspective to it too, with what you've studied and with human behavior and everything that you bring to the table. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to go down this path and see what this conversation brings us.
Yeah. One thing that we've heard talked about a lot is the language of Caspa. I think most people already know the story that Caspa means silver in Aramaic, and most people already know that. And that, of course, it also means apparently dandruff or something in Spanish.
It does,
So,
yes. It does. Caspa. Yeah, it means dandruff. It does.
and I've heard people pronounce it Costa and Caspa and different other forms, right? So there's the language aspect of it, which is sort of audio and written. But then there's the human element of it, which is how we think about Caspa and how we view Caspa even when we're not using it, right? And with you, I think you were saying something about how you see Caspa as sort of being a mirror to the world and how people interact with one another. So I want to hear a little bit about what you were saying on that and expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, a thought that I had was based around how we how we look at what actually happens, and then the story that we attach to what happens. And I think for me and my life experience and what's allowed me to be able to relate with people from all walks of life, because I think with specifically with what I've gone through, it's really easy to see somebody who's in the struggle and really stuck in that struggle, and then relate to this person who's a big time achiever who knows what they want. So I feel for myself, I've been all over the spectrum. Growing up, I was a very quiet kid, very much in my head. And then I've shared on previous spaces for people that know me. I had to divorce my parents when I was 17, and then I got a different perspective, literally night and day from the way I grew up with my mom and dad, and then living with my foster family. I was introduced to this completely different world where we were encouraged to talk and speak, and that wasn't the same world that I came from. So that it was a shock to my system. But what was really cool about was really distinguishing, some of the stories that I had created in my life, and realizing that, oh, if I attach myself to these stories, well, I'm never really going to be open to exploring a different possibility. And that's,
Mhm.
with Kaspa, I look at I look at the discovery of Bitcoin and Kaspa as discoveries in my life. It wasn't like I was out there trying to find it. It just, I was ready to see it. And because I've been in this practice, in this headspace of never attaching myself to, I'm not going to say I never have, but when I realize that I'm, what's going on here versus how am I interpreting it? What am I missing? Always, I feel because I've been doing this for such a long time that I have a different angle that I come at everything with, and it allows me to
Mhm.
see all these different perspectives. So, so we talked about, mentioned this briefly, but when I look at the Caspa, the block dag, right, and that discovery and just how that is compared to Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin comes out in 10-minute blocks. There's a lot of there's a lot. 10 minutes is we're experiencing it in real time when we talk about, like, oh, who wants to wait that long for settlement, and then you take a look at the way Bitcoiners defend that, and the stories that they're anchored on is well, Bitcoin came to the market first. It's the way it's set up. There's probably technical aspects to that we don't really need to get into, but it it obviously was perfect for when it came out, but it stopped evolving, right? And then we take a look at the block dag. The block dag takes blocks in parallel, and then it goes to the truth. So it's, instant settlement. And I think Caspa represents more of how life really is, right? Where we have so much happening, we have to interpret it quickly and get to the truth as quickly as we can, and move forward, right? So that's how I view Caspa. So there's this energetic connection that I feel when and I run a node here in my house, Cara, and I have it in my living room, the little screen there. So
Nice.
I walk by it, and it's really cool. I feel like I feel the energy of Caspa in
Nice.
in, in my house. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit about how I see it. Now, you had mentioned that you see it as something that for you signifies multitasking, right? You mentioned something
Yeah.
like that. I'm curious as
Mhm.
to your view of that and what you think.
So visually, when I see the block bag in action, and you see the, what do they call it, the K cluster or whatever, you see the line of this line grabbing blocks, essentially, in layman's terms,
Hmm.
and it's basically saying, I'm not going to neglect the orphans. I'm grabbing this, I'm grabbing that. I'm using my many arms, so to speak, to grab as many of these blocks as possible, which from a human perspective is kind of like looking at an octopus with many tentacles, grabbing many things at once and moving it forward, or like a mother, for instance, holding many children in many arms, or seeing a juggler holding balls and keeping them all going. Whereas when you look at something like Bitcoin, it doesn't have that same sense of grab this, grab that, and this sense of responsibility of bringing a whole family of blocks along for the ride. It's just different, right? This seems to be more of a population friendly environment, so to speak. So for me, when I see Caspa, I see a population growth in the blockchain DAG, or we don't want, I mean, it's different. So uh, blockchain, the word is used broadly to represent a lot of things in crypto, but we know it's a block DAG. But when I say it, I'm kind of including both, because broadly and very detailed and close up, it's almost comparing something that's nuanced because it's both true and untrue, so to speak. When we're looking at one block after another block, it's very slow. It's basically requiring people to take a coffee break or a cigarette break in order to have finality, which slows down the pace of how the world moves.
Yeah.
And when people use Caspa, things can go at the pace of life.
That really, I think that really nails it, right? It's there's so many things within Bitcoin that didn't happen, and that created the opportunity for Caspa to come into the world as it has, right? And it's only been three and a half. Well, we're really close to the four-year anniversary, right? But it's so new, and I mean, I can relate to just being early to a lot of things in my life, and in the same energy I feel with Caspa right now, where there's this ossified group of thinkers that are just dismissing and throwing what is actually happening right now versus what their story is, so what they think is happening. So it's interesting how you break it down, because I kind of see that. You know what I feel with how you're explaining it too. I feel like for me, the male masculine perspective, I don't know if you caught this, but like I'm catching like the male masculine, hey, this is happening right now, I gotta do it. And then you're like, you see it as all encompassing, and kind of like
Yeah,
the feminine and the motherly. So I kind of caught that with your explanation. I find that super
same.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I picked up on that too.
yeah.
That's
It's
really
just
cool.
this beautiful organism that has so much to offer the world. Right? It literally is, and I think was also probably not talked about enough. I think more so recently, but the fact that it stands on its own. Caspa is an evolution of what Bitcoin left open, right? But the same ethos, same basic principles, but it literally is going to stand on its own. And
Oh yeah.
I think that's what people are really missing, because again, there's these attachments to what they think it is, right?
And it also takes the evolution of what humans can do within technology to a whole new level.
Mm.
Because if we look at Michael Sutton, for instance, he's looking at atomic composability. That is some mind blowing stuff at the
Whoa.
very edge of our research right now, at the very edge of what all humans know. And it's being applied to something that's never been done before. So it's really the evolution of human intelligence as well.
That it's so when you mentioned Michael, I've seen him speak a couple times. And this is another thing that I tend to do, Carl, whenever I hear, the devs talk, or more so than what comes out of their mouth. I I tune into how I feel when they speak. For example, with Jonathan doing the interview the other day with Vlad, if you notice, whenever he would speak, he pauses, and you could tell he's very thoughtful, and then he speaks his truth, And I think that says a lot about somebody. He even talks about how when he launched, he was asked by Vlad, when you launch Caspa, is there anything you would do differently? And he was like, I would do everything differently. It sounded super stressful, right? And and that to me was such a beautiful answer. I was just like, that wasn't canned. That's exactly
It's
how
honest.
he feels, right? And
It's honest.
it
Yeah.
is, right? It really is. And there's so many parallels with Caspa, and the energetic connection that I feel when I just think of what this is going to bring to the world. And again, going back to what all of this was supposed to be about in the beginning, and I think one of the use cases for for Caspa is the peer to peer, truly sequence in the world, but peer to peer, having the third party not be a part of your interaction with the network, right? The network,
That's the best part.
right? Absolutely. Like that is so important. That is so important. And there's these stories and these perspectives that are so. I mean, I see it clearly for me, where they're just so attached to this narrative, and it's like, hey, man, wake up! Like the world moves pretty quickly, You have a younger son.
And
You have a younger son. Another thing that I was what's coming up for me right now is I think of the way my son moves through the world. There isn't a lot of talking. There's a lot of
yoga.
well, he does do some yoga with me, but there's this energetic connection. And when I think of Caspa, right, with because I've shared how easy, not easy, but how it's very. Whenever I invite somebody to download a wallet or I put them on it, it's just a lot easier to onboard somebody to Caspa. And I see the parallels with how the future generations are gonna work with crypto and Caspa, right? It's an easier onboarding process. It's more aligned with how the world moves. So I think all that comes into play with with what Caspa brings to the world. You know.
Speaking of the world, this month I've been trying to get my son to open up to the idea of the lives of people who live in countries that we'll never go to
Mm.
and what they experience. And so we decided to sponsor a child who lives in
Zambia.
Zambia.
Okay, that's
Yes.
awesome.
So we sponsored a child from Zambia, and we were looking at the story of the family. I think they make $30 or $50 a month, right?
Wow.
And I remember thinking at some point, I wonder if I can convince their family to set up a Caspa wallet. How hard or easy would that be to introduce someone across the world who really needs it to have access to this? And what would that do for them? Right. And I wonder if it would be too complicated to bring up or if it would be just right. It's certainly easier than Lightning, right? Because with Lightning, you have to have it already.
Exactly.
With
Yeah. That's
with
all.
this, you don't. And even if they're able to access a library, maybe they can get a Casper wallet. Maybe I can put some money in there. It could certainly really change their lives. So I tend to think of it sort of like that too when you bring the world element into this. How can we help people around the world using P2P? Yeah, I want to help them without going through a third party.
Right.
Just
I mean
giving
that
it to them. And yeah.
that was the original mission, and in my heart I know that that's why Caspa is here, right? I mean I've shared before, and I think you know this about me, but I'm from Panama, right? And that's considered third world, but I have family down there. They use the US dollar, and I
Okay.
and I put a couple cousins on it that were just amazed, and they're trading with each other Caspa down there. So I wonder where do they have internet out there? Where
I
Do
don't
you know if
know.
they
We
have
just
smartphones?
sponsored
Yeah.
them. We just sponsored them this month. We haven't even had contact yet.
Mhm.
We just have their photo and their story, but we have not actually made contact yet. But we have already started paying for the sponsorship. So I don't really know their situation really. Not yet.
Yeah, you have to tell me how that goes. I
Yeah.
I I always find it super super cool to have those conversations. Like I shared earlier, it's just very because I've had nothing and I didn't really think about money at all, too much at all. It wasn't something that was we didn't have much of it growing up. So, it kind of came into play more so after, when I was a teenager, and
Hmm.
but I was in a good spot to where, my situation and my circumstance made money making pretty easy for me, right? But at the same time, I shared this on a space before with I just thought of like my ex father-in-law who worked at he so my ex-wife would always talk about how he was such a great dad because he would go and hustle at the market, right? So this is in Panama. He's Panamanian. So he'd go and hustle at the market, make like $30, and then, you know, work with cash all day. And when I started studying Bitcoin and Caspa, specifically Caspa more so, I
Hmm.
started to see his struggle and how he was debased because he recently, over the past couple of years, just kind of fell off a little bit because he couldn't work
Mm.
anymore. They shut down the market, and he didn't have any access to his cash. He basically had been saving, not saving much, but that's how he operated throughout the world. And I really thought about him quite a bit because he was, met him 15 years ago, such a young, vibrant hustler, and kind of fell off. And I see that as a symptom, right, of people not being able to transact peer to peer. You know,
How do you think his life would have changed if he had access to Caspa back then?
so I see this from such a deep philosophical, energetic perspective where I think we're all just better with each other overall. So so if you don't have anybody messing with you interacting with somebody else, there's just better flow. Think of the conversation right now between you and I, us going back and forth, and I know there's people in here listening. When there's a conversation and you're exchanging energy back and forth, it flows better. There's a connection. There's back and forth. There's nothing in there taking from the conversation. And it's the same thing exchanging money. It's this money's just an energy exchange. So I think
Mhm.
when you have, us putting our money in banks like that was this is these are things that I've definitely felt into over the past couple of years. All the, yeah, I shared pretty easy for me to make money throughout my life. I've been very fortunate in that area. But again, earlier in my life, we didn't have much. So it had me see how the system and having to depend on that third party and not being sovereign, and then going back and studying our history and how that it hasn't always been that way, right? It's been this way maybe for the past 150 years, but we used to function in smaller communities. We just used to take care of each other.
Yeah, 'cause we live
We
in.
were more self-sovereign, we were healthier, all that. So
Mhm.
so it literally touches money touches everything. Touches everything. So that's the long-winded version of his life. He would just be his young, vibrant self. I feel like my life is a reflection of that, specifically over the past 6 or 7 years, more so for me, because I was in the fiat. I got really good at making money in that system, but physically it took a toll on me. Right? At one point I don't know if I've shared this, but at one point I was almost 300 pounds, and I was in pretty good shape growing up, but I eventually got to a point where it was like, I got back in touch with my younger self who didn't give a shit about money, and stop
Wow.
setting these goals of, oh, I need to make a certain amount every single year. I stopped doing that. I was like, okay, how do I want to show up today? What type of energy do I want to have when I interact with people? And then I was able to build a business around that, and think more to myself, okay, how do I want people to feel when they interact with me? And I when I started doing that, the energy shifted in my business, and it was easy to attract people to work for me, and just created a better environment. And then I started working out very consistently again 6 7 years ago, and then everything took off with the business. Just everything got better, and I didn't care. I literally, the thought of, oh, how much money am I going to make, that's not how I operated. And I believe that mindset is what brought it in and had it flow, right? And then I think all that needed to happen so that it was taken away from me with
How did how did and just a quick question,
yeah,
how did your perspective of the value of money change?
in discovering Bitcoin and Kaspa.
Well, in this whole process of you looking at money differently and it affecting your health and how you approached working out and things like that, how did your understanding of how you valued money change throughout that whole experience of your whole life turning into this other.
This other version, like uplifted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I got back in touch with the dreamer, the younger version of me that wanted to do things, not for money. That's really how I functioned when I was younger. I played football. I was a quarterback, and football was a passion, basketball was a passion. And I didn't do that because I wanted to make money. I did want to be
Mhm.
a professional athlete. I didn't make it. I knew I wasn't going to be when I was like in 10th, ninth or 10th grade. But see, what happened in my situation, I was able, the first sales job that I had was I sold knives when I was in college. I sold Cutco knives when I was in college. And I had a good support system around me and kind of a good situation where I was able to do it not for the money because I was set in terms of my environment and being able to go to school and not have to worry about paying for anything. I went to a private Division 3 school, played football, but I had my school paid for and I didn't have to go, but I worked in the summers because my foster mom was telling me you need to develop skills. And again, I was pretty shy, so I wasn't like this where I could talk and I knew that about myself. And because of because of not having to worry about money, I was able to be in that energy of, okay, I need to better my skills. I need to be better with people, and I got really good at it. I was really, really good at it. And being in sales, working on commissions, I was able to learn the psychology of sales and all that, and that created abundance. So to answer your question, I feel that, when that isn't something that's pressing, like you need it, and that's what you're doing it for, then you're able to get more into your gifts and what you're naturally good at. And that's what I was
Yeah.
eventually able to find. And I think the pursuit of wanting to make, because there was definitely years, and I hated doing it too. I actually had a problem with being called a salesperson too. I did not like that. I was like, no, no, I don't sell anything. There was this negative connotation in my head about it. So I didn't even like being referred to as a salesperson. I like being referred to as somebody who helped people buy. That's
Mm,
how I.
that's way more
Right?
positive.
Yeah. I've always been very, that's why it was super cool of you when you initially, I think we got on a space together, and I appreciated that you called me out for saying like a lot. And I've been more aware of that because there was a time when I would train sales reps and I was very aware of that. And I know that it's a pause word, right? It's something I do when I'm ahead of myself a little bit and not really present in what's going on right now. So yeah, I like to come from authenticity, obviously, and that's what helped me in my career. And I think when we don't make it about going out and making this money, being attached to the number, that's why even within Caspa, I really don't. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't look at the charts and all that, but it's not about that. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, right? It's about what the technology provides, and but I also understand people that come into it and they that's what they need, right? I understand that it makes sense. I'm just very fortunate to be on the other side of it where I can give this
Me too.
perspective, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your story is so awesome. So proud of you. I feel like
Thank
yeah.
you.
I feel like I
I don't
appreciate
even look at the price most of the time. I
right?
haven't looked in the price in a couple days. I don't need to know it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the ultimate goal, I think, for everyone, and I think we're examples of that. And that's why we have to talk about our stories and share these perspectives because it's absolutely possible for everybody listening on this call. It's absolutely possible. It just takes a shift in perspective. What are your anchors? What are you attaching the narrative to? Because it starts there, right? And then just looking at things from a different perspective can open up a whole new world, right? And it's just better over here, right? It's just when you're doing things from your, I like to think of it from your soul, from your purpose, then things open up, right? You make the connections you're supposed to make. The money literally starts flowing in, and it goes
Oh,
in the opposite direction when you're not aligned with that, right? It's just harder to make. So, I see that for people too. I see it for people within my family. But it's been great because since I discovered that's another thing, right? Bitcoin has been in my life since 2018 or so, and I've actually wondered why I didn't go deeper into Bitcoin sooner. But actually understanding what happened for me, it kind of makes sense. But then Caspa showing itself, right? And what Caspa really is and what it's going to do and how ridiculously early we are to it. It's such a beautiful place to be. We're so lucky.
it's true.
Yeah.
very fortunate and very blessed that I got into Kaspa as early as I did. And I think of how I want to feel as being the goal rather than how much the price needs to go up.
Mm,
For me, the way that I want to feel is the goal. And the goal is I want to feel peace, joy, and wonder.
I love that.
And I know that when Caspa gets more adopted, my feelings of joy, peace, and wonder go up. And I equate that to everything in life. For instance, from the material plane, obviously if I have a beautiful home with a beautiful view, my feeling of joy and wonder is going to go up and my feeling of peace living in a safe neighborhood goes up. But there's other elements of that too, of just existing within your own body and living another day feeling happier than the day before. And for me, Caspa gives me that hope. And it's weird because from a troll's perspective, they call this hopium. They're saying, "Oh, you're smoking hopium." Well, you know what? I like to
Smoke
smoke me
it.
some motherfucking hopium.
What is wrong with smoking some opium? Like, it's
You
better.
know.
It's better on that side.
I would love to smoke some Hobium because every time I look at Caspa, I'm filled with optimism. And if that makes me delusional, then they're having a negative connotation that I'm not assigning to it. I see this as something that is the pinnacle of humanity. And I feel lucky to have seen it. We're seeing it as it's being
Right.
made.
You know,
What's cooler than that?
you're spot on with it, and I like to think that you know to that all that. So one of the phrases I say with my son every single day when I drop him off is, we used to have these five mantras, but I simplified it, and all he says now is, I am complete and I have everything within me that I need.
Oh, I like that.
So you just said that when Caspa gets more adopted, that's going to bring you more joy.
It
What were
does.
the words again? What were they?
It does. As Caspa grows in adoption, I feel happier and more joy and more wonderment.
Yeah, and that's happening on the daily.
Yeah. Yeah. Second by second.
I like to think that it's already adopted within,
Oh, it is. Yeah.
like it's adopted for
Continue.
us, right? The world
Yeah.
doesn't know it like we know it yet, and then it's, our responsibility to share our perspective of it and what it could do, and then
True, but I think there's also a sense of responsibility to onboard people who don't have that education, but not for everybody. I don't want to have the responsibility to educate everybody, but I accept the responsibility to accept who I choose to educate. So, for instance, the child in Zambia I was telling you about, I feel a sense of maybe one day I'll take it upon myself as a responsibility to show them step by step how to make a wallet so I can send them some money. Now, it doesn't mean that they need to, but if they're willing, I will accept that responsibility. I would love to be able to do that. That would make me feel good to spread that adoption to
yeah, but
someone who I know really needs it.
I think it's so easy to set up the wallet.
Even for someone who lives in Zambia?
Yeah,
You think so?
you'd be so. I'm just thinking of my son right now. Who was diagnosed on the spectrum. We really don't think he's on it. He's just a really shy kid, but he could move around on an iPad like you wouldn't believe. And I sent him when I put him on Caspa. So he was selling snow cones for school projects. That's his little business that he has within his little school project. So, anyways, when he was selling these snow cones, I set it up so he could accept Caspa, and I
Oh,
and
wow.
I sent him the wallet, and I told him download it, and he just went through. He put his name on there. He picked a pass without me telling him, and he's
Wow.
like he was ready. you know?
I
And
still need to onboard my son to
oh,
Kaspa.
we gotta do that as soon as possible, Cara.
This is why I was asking
You're
today
how old's your
where
son,
I
by the way?
can.
How old is he?
What was that?
How old's your
He
son?
is
How old?
16.
16. Oh yeah, he's gonna know how to do it.
Well,
Just send him
he's
the app.
ready. But here's the thing, I want him to sell comic books that we have, and so we want a place where we can have him sell them, so we can have a job of selling these comic books
Okay.
where the money goes into his Caspa wallet. That's what I really want for him, so that he can have the money and it be sovereign and it be in his hands and not go through a third party.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's 16. He's gonna know how to set up that wallet. Because all you really have to do is put your name and then, there's no a password and then he's set up. And then you
Yeah, we gotta figure out how to get a platform or I don't know. I
well
don't know
that's
what our
that's the
options are.
that's the next step, right? That is the next
Yeah.
step. I'm with you there. But I think initially just onboarding somebody, that was one of the biggest things that I got excited about over the past month and a half when I started to talk more here on X and just connect with all you guys. I was I was saying to myself, why didn't I put more people on this sooner? It's literally, hey, download this wallet. I want to send you something and get your opinion on it. That's how I ended up paying
Mhm.
my barber. I didn't ask him if he wanted to take his tip. We'd been talking about Caspa and Bitcoin he's been my barber for 5 years. And I just said, hey, download this wallet. And he
See,
downloaded it.
I've noticed that if people already know about and have crypto wallets, they're very open to the idea of having a Caspa wallet too. But if they don't have crypto, it is an uphill battle.
It is. Yeah, it's definitely a more you're right. You're not I'm with you on that. It's more of a yeah, absolutely. I feel you on that. But
So,
I've been able to tip everybody because I don't say much. I'm just like, download this wallet. I'm gonna send you a little bit here. I want to get your opinion on it. That's my approach. And it works.
right. Talk a little bit about what you were saying about anchors.
Yeah.
We were talking about this privately, and I don't think people here know, and I don't really know how to phrase the question, so I just figured I'd leave it an open topic, and you just kind of ramble how you want on that.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
So the example that we talked about, and well, okay. So when I going back to the opportunity that I had when I lived with a foster family, right? And Lucy introduced me to this education called landmark education when I was 20.
Mhm.
So well over 20 some odd years ago. And for example, I had the story that I had was my dad abandoned us and I had to grow up and be an adult way sooner than I wanted to, right? So
Mm.
that was the anchor that I put on my life. That was a story that I created. And I learned that in that story there's more than likely a probable predictable future that I'm going to be living into because that's the story that I'm consciously and subconsciously taking with me
Yeah.
instead of looking at what it actually was. And mind you, I have a beautiful relationship with my dad now. It took a lot of work to get to where we are today, but it doesn't happen if back 20 plus years ago I didn't let go of the fact that I was making up that story. I didn't really know everything, and I just attached a completely different narrative to it, so I got to a place where, and this happened over the course of a weekend in this landmark education that I did, but I realized that, okay, yeah, that story doesn't serve me. If I attach myself to that, then I can see the way my life's going to turn out. I'm going to stick around where I grew up. I'm not going to accomplish anything, and that's not what I want to do. So why don't I take a look at it for what it is? And I let go of that anchor, right? So there's anchors that we attach to what we think happens because we assume things about why a situation happened. You attach a story to it. And the new perspective, the new story I created for myself, or I took a look at what it was. It was like, no, my dad just we lost the house, and that was it. We lost the house, and he did the best. He did the best that he could. He couldn't handle it from here, and what happened had to happen. Now it's on me. The rest, what's going to happen moving forward is about the decisions that I make. But I'm leaving it there. I'm forgiving it. I'm not going to attach myself to it. And that created a beautiful freedom. And it wasn't easy, right? There's definitely times when I was in and out of maybe feeling sorry for myself or looking at that way, but I had really good people around me, specifically my foster mom Lucy, to talk me through all of that. But just let it,
Bless her for doing that.
right?
That's great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wish I had someone like that.
You do. You have us. You have the Kaspa
No,
community. That's what
no,
we're here for.
no, no. There's no one I can talk to about my trauma. Trust me. There's nobody. But for you, you had an adopted mother. You had someone that was
I
willing
did.
to work
Yeah,
with you.
I did.
That is so priceless. That is so priceless, and I'm so glad that you had that because I have stories I can't let go of because I still get pissed off and I need the stories so I can keep my anger. So,
So that's having a chip on your shoulder. Like that's that. I see that
oh yeah,
mentality with
oh
sports
yeah,
people, football all the time. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I,
And don't get me wrong, I can change my story at will. I can change my anchor, but at the end of the day, sometimes I hold on to certain stories because I don't want to lose the fact that they freaking happened, right? And I realize that it's a double-edged sword because it hurts me. And that's also why I have PTSD is because of just the stuff that hurts and
Mhm.
I can't let go of it. And I applaud the fact that you had someone helping you and working with you through that. That's so beautiful. And I'm really glad that you had someone to do that because I don't have anyone. I've never had anyone. I can't even talk to a therapist. I can't talk to
I can't talk to
anybody about my
therapists either. By the way, I can't
shit.
talk to therapists. So I tried therapy for a little bit when I was. Lucy was. Here's the thing. Lucy was always very open to letting me come and talk to her, but she definitely got annoyed with me
Mhm.
many times, and I probably had her for a good 4 or 5 years. But after that, I kind of got to a place where not that I was like self sufficient, but I've always been someone that doesn't want to stay stuck. So
Yeah.
so I would always I'm like, okay, what am I not seeing here? What am I not letting go of? So I've had a journal for 25 years. I journal quite a bit. Not always though. That whenever I'm going through something, I make sure I journal quite a bit. And there's a lot. I'm not afraid to go anywhere and share anything anymore.
All right, let me ask you a question on that.
Yeah.
The journaling part. So I had a journal when I was a kid and I stopped journaling because it was used against me and I was further abused for having thoughts I wrote down. And ever since then, I've never felt safe to even put down words that are true and authentic because I'm afraid someone will read them.
There's an anchor.
Oh, I recognize it. I am aware of it. Trust me, I see it. It is there. I put it there. But for you, how do you write without the voice on the shoulder saying someone might see this?
So
How do you stay authentic?
so there's another layer to it, right? I think I got there, you know, 15 plus years ago with just being, in this space where the best results happened in my life when I was just real about it and just let it go. Now that's not to say, Cara, that I wouldn't from time to time keep things to myself. And I still have a couple things like that, but for the most part, I'm not. There's not anything I'm not willing to talk about, to process and work through, right? Because I shared earlier with my health. I was almost 300 pounds at one point, and I then there is another layer to this. Is I found plant medicine when I was this was like 6 7 years ago. So right before I went down my health journey, plant medicine helped me tremendously. That was a whole nother layer and level of coming to face with all of my demons, and getting there with myself. I realized how much I was, like when you really hold on to something because you think it means this or that. And mind you, I have a football background. Like the football warrior mentality is have a chip on your shoulder, competition, and that works to a certain extent. But in life and in where I'm in my life now, and holding on to that doesn't serve me one bit. And what I notice is the conversations. I'll share this great experience that I had the first time I sat with ayahuasca for the first time. Do you know what that is? Have you ever heard of that? Ayahuasca?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
All right. So I sat with ayahuasca for the first time in January of 2019. And now, mind you, I did it with a very, people that I trusted. I prepared for it for 6 months. Very intentional, very intentional, but I was scared shitless because I
Yeah.
heard of, all the stories. But the reason I did it was because I was a part of this networking group, and this one guy in particular, who I met. We connected through we both were football players, and I'd met him 6 months prior, and then I happened to be in New Orleans for a Buccaneers Saints game, and that's where he was from. And when I went to meet up with him, he just had a baby. And when I went to meet up with him, his energy was completely different. So when I met him initially, he was very fidgety, like all over the place, and really cool guy. But his energy was completely different. And I asked him, bro, what, like you're different. He's like, oh yeah, I did this ayahuasca thing. I'm like, okay, I've heard of that. And he was telling me how he had this experience of seeing himself if he continued down his path, where he said he would get blackout drunk every single weekend. And he's from a very well-known family in the New Orleans area. They're known for partying, they're known for being crazy. And he just had this experience where he saw where if he kept doing that, he was he was gonna it was just gonna lead down a shitty path, right? But more so than the story, it was just like how I felt around him and his energy. So that's what had me even take a look at going
Mm.
down, right? So now when I did IN, amongst so many things that I got from doing it, at the end of my first ceremony, mind you, I'm a pretty big guy at this time. I'm close to 300 pounds. I remember at the end of the ceremony, because what happens is the shamans they'll sing the Icaros, and you feel the medicine going through, and it just takes you down these different life experiences. It just connects you to so much. And I remember the medicine asking me, Juan, do you really want to love yourself? And I thought to myself, like, I do love myself. What do you mean? Yeah, yeah, of course I want to love myself. And then it asked again, no, do you really want to love yourself? And I was, and the Icaro, so the song that the shaman was singing was just this beautiful melody that just had me surrender. And in
Yeah.
that moment, I was, I was like, I was out of my body. I could see my body, and at the same time understand that, oh shit, there's this whole other level of consciousness that I had been doubting for for my entire life. And I wasn't in control anymore, but I was safe and I felt loved, right? And as the Icaro's going, my hands start moving, right? And I'm kind of picturing, trying to explain this. I'm laying down, and I keep being asked, like, do you really want to love yourself? I'm like, yeah, yeah, of course. And now at this time, it's light, there's love, and my arms, I just end up giving myself this massive. And again, I'm a big dude, so I'm giving myself this massive hug. And Cara, I had never felt that good in my life, and it literally was the first time that I told Fat Juan that I loved him. I'd been talking so much
Oh,
shit to him for such a long time. I weight yo-yoed from the time I left college. So for 15 years, it was like up and down. I'd be doing all these crazy ass diets, listening to all this bullshit. And I talked so much shit to myself, so much shit. And in that moment, it was there was an appreciation for Fat Juan. And I say it
yeah.
all the time. Like, I love Fat Juan. I don't miss him. But that's when I really finally realized like why he was around. And that was the beginning of me realizing that for me, I hold all my trauma in my body. And that's why I was big. And
Mm.
and once I was able to have peace with that, it just opened up this warrior in me, this beast.
So I want to
Yeah.
share something with you along those lines, and thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that because it makes me feel like I can share this part with
Of
you.
course.
I know what it's like to have trauma in the body, and I had so much abuse that I experienced as a child that the cortisol going through my body was so intense because of all the stress my body was enduring on a day-to-day basis that I developed a disease. And the disease is, well, two diseases, lipedema and Derkham's disease. And it was a fat disease that makes you bigger and bigger, and there's no cure for it. So I just kept getting bigger and bigger, and diet and exercise just doesn't work. And it's a disease. And it wasn't until this year that I got diagnosed by two specialists in Beverly Hills, and they're now working with me so that insurance will cover it to get it all removed from my body.
Um,
And Caspa is actually going to be what is going to give me my body back,
oh,
so to speak,
I just got
which
goosebumps, by the
pays
way. Not to cut you off.
into. Right? And it pays into this whole feeling peaceful, feeling joy, feeling wonder. It all ties back in because I spent my whole life with people looking at me like I was somehow fat and lazy when really I was a really hard worker, constantly doing stuff, working out, eating healthy, and there was nothing I could do about it. And and it's really unfortunate, because I always looked at myself like I was beautiful. And I saw myself as someone that was worthy of love and worthy of just being treated respectfully by people. But the disease made it so that when people looked at me, they instantly had a judgment. And it
Mhm.
started to really just eat at me. Like, how come they're looking at me this way when I don't look at myself that way? And it's just weird. It is weird. But I have had my experiences with different drugs, and I have conversations with my younger self as if she's a different person. And I love her and I hold her and I protect her so that she's never hurt by anyone or anyone who looks at me with these looks. They don't affect me
I
because
love
she's
that.
protected.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, like I actually really do love myself, but I say things that just let people think that I can see the mirror that they're seeing. Like, "Oh, I'm not that beautiful," because I know that that's what they're seeing, but it's not what I believe. And it's interesting because I play off of the psychology of that, which actually brings humor to conversations, and usually that works for me. But I know what it's like to sit there and want to hug yourself and say, I love you. This isn't your fault. You're an amazing person. Things were done to you. You were not to blame. This was not something you deserved. And it took me a long time to get to that place. And for me, just having people around who all have this mutual understanding of Caspa, which ironically people see it as money, but I see it as the way out of this matrix, this cage I've
Mhm.
been in my whole life, right? I see it as this opening of a cage, so to speak, right? It's opening a whole new life that will be available to me, and it's already happening. It's already in the works. In fact, I've been given a checklist of things to do to appease the insurance companies, and I have everything on the checklist done. All I need to do is let a few weeks pass so that they can see that I'm doing all of the things.
Yeah.
And it's been beautiful. I mean, today I was at the gym working out. Yeah, I do what I need to do. It's just that I can't lose weight. I just have to show the insurance company that I can't lose weight. So, yeah.
Well, it sound that, and I appreciate you willing to go there and share all that with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of us that have interacted with you can feel how beautiful you are as a person. That at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And That's awesome that all these things, like I just, it's all interconnected, Cara. That's how I see this. Caspa's medicine. It's
It
that's the way I see
is.
it. It's all
It
medicine.
really is.
It's all interconnected. We look at it as this investment money. That's not really where I go with it. I just see it as an interconnection of truth, right? And
Mhm.
all these things matter. All these things matter to just bring us together and to have us be better with each other, right?
And
So
it's a value, it's an exchange of value. And even if you're not trading the money, you can exchange it with yourself, the exchange that you have with even owning it. Just the fact that I know that I own enough Caspa to not have to put my body through something it doesn't deserve is itself medicine,
it
right?
is. Wow. Absolutely. Yeah, and then it's,
It's
it's like it's like you've probably experienced this, right? It's just the more and more you move your time to that, and that's putting your, that's the way I don't know if you relate to this too, but the way I look at it with my family and who I am for my family and how I operate within this sound money option is you just vibrate in life completely differently. You're freer. Like
Mhm.
you said, you're out of the matrix, and it's such a beautiful place to be, you know? So
Oh yeah.
even if you can move a little bit of time over and just start feeling it, and I think that's what we do when we put our people on wallets. That's, I think that's like the initial little, hey, taste this.
Yeah, like, oh, this is my name on a wallet, and I have such good name. I have
Exactly.
beautiful.cast.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why you got to get your son on it. Like just have him download the wallet.
I do. When it first came out, I reserved his name and I reserved his favorite superhero's name. So we also have Goku.cast.
Oh, cool. Oh, I think I saw that. I think I saw that you had Goku. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a big fan of Goku.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Super cool. But yeah, we're just scratching the surface with what all this is, right? And there's so many different angles that you could take Casper into, but I'm happy that we're getting to talk about the human side of this and what it does for you energetically and
Oh yeah.
philosophically. It opens up a whole new world. People need to know about this. There is hope. There is finally an answer. We got to give credit to Bitcoin for blazing the trail.
True.
And
I definitely respect how they have been a stepping stone and everyone actually who's been a stepping stone. I remember when Solana came out and feeling a sense of excitement because here comes this fast coin that's going to have all these memes associated with it. And I just remember thinking, this is really cool. And it's different than Ethereum, which is expensive. This is interesting. But then when I learned that it had an infinity denominator, I kind of lost my interest. But there was initial interest.
yeah, yeah. I think the monetary principles are an important part of why Bitcoin has been number one, and that's what makes Caspa so exciting because it shares those same exact principles. But I do think at the base layer, making sure that it's the proof of work aspect of it being decentralized, bounded by energy, and the hard cap supply. Those are the components that set it apart, right? And Bitcoin was the
Mhm.
only one to be able to launch and be able to capture that, right? Which is a complete mirror to the system that we're in. The system that we're indoctrinated into, the one that we're born into, extracts from us without our permission. And
Mhm.
it is the source of all of the problems, of all of the suffering.
Uh,
And by the way, I shared one time that I've done Aya. I've done it 10 times. And
really?
oh yeah. The last time I
Yeah,
sat,
that's cool.
what's that?
That's cool. I
Yeah.
haven't done it, but I've had some very powerful spiritual awakenings and experiences. with magic mushrooms and LSD.
Oh yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, acid, stuff like that. So I did a lot of psychedelics back in the day, a long, long time ago. And I have seen the Big Bang.
Oh yeah. It takes you places, right? It definitely. I like to think of it as like a reconnection to, to yourself. That's
Yeah.
really right. That's how I see it. It's just like I got to reconnect to that child wonder, that child optimism that people think you have to grow up and put on a shelf. And it's like, no, no. I watched my Florida State Seminoles win today, and I enjoyed that like the little kid that I was.
Good,
Them beating
good.
Alabama, and I'm a big football guy. Like I still make sure that I make time for the things that bring me joy like that. And I think we this life isn't about working and making money and getting it's not all about that, right? It's about the
Right.
human connection element. It's about you remembering who the f you are. I think that's something that you and I are both like going down that journey right now. You
I'm
know,
looking forward to what it's going to be like at the end of this year and sometime next year when I look in the mirror and there's a new person there.
Ooh,
You know what I'm saying? Because
it's gonna feel
getting rid
nice.
of they're going to get rid of all of it. And
That's
it's going to take
awesome.
probably 4 surgeries. They're going to get rid of all of it. And my body is going to look banging,
Hell
like so fucking hot because
yeah.
it's easy to locate where the stuff is because you can feel it.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be super easy. It's not like I'm obese where people are regularly fat. I don't have that. I have lipedema, which
Yeah.
is it's abnormal. And so, they can just take surgery, take it out, and then suddenly, instantly, overnight, I would have a completely new body. So I'm looking forward to just having a new me and in my mind, I'm getting ready for that, right? I'm leaving space in my mind for how am I going to feel? What's this going to be like? Who is this person?
Yeah.
Right? I'm making space for that because you have to manifest it, right? And
Absolutely.
I'm building that because it's going to happen. It's already in the works. I already have the checklist. I've been spending thousands just to get the checklist done. And I'm so ready. So ready.
I'm excited for you. It sounds like
Thank
you're there
you.
already, right? Like that's what you're doing. You're feeling into that moment. And I
Oh,
think that's what we need to do with everything, right? That's what this space brings. That's what saving your money in a sound system out of exiting fiat and understanding what we have here. That's what you do. You get to like my life every day is a gift. And I know that I'm super blessed and fortunate. And I know that you're in a similar position considering everything that you've gone through and like where you're at. And we literally get
mhm.
to draw out and paint these lives that, I know in my case it was against all odds, right? But it's possible.
I have a
Whatever you
question
want
for
to dream
you.
up, it's possible. What's up?
I have a question for you. So you said that you let go of your story, you let go of some of your anchors. My question for you is, what was the process of letting it go? Where did it go? Did you put it in a bag and let it go? Did you release it into the universe? How did you release it? Did you have a ritual for letting it go? What was your process of letting it go? How did you
Mm.
do that? And were you under the influence and with what?
So here's what I would say to all that. There's so many different things, right, that I've let go, but it is a constant practice of letting go. And then I mean, there's no set technique that I use or anything like that. I did feel I shared that I've sat with ayahuasca 10 times. I think every time that I've done it, I've been called to do it. And by the way, the first, even though I shared that awesome experience that I had, it's one thing to go in and face what you got to face and then come out. They call it integrating. So then you come back to the world and, we come back to the matrix and it was tough and I didn't want to know what I knew. And that for the first couple of years were pretty bad. So there, it's not like it's this uphill trajectory. It's kind of like the charts, right? Like the charts really reflect life. There's these ups and downs. You just have to make sure that you keep going, right? And then you
Mm.
continue to stay on the course and understand that, okay, yeah, it feels like you're down, but going back, see, for me, it's always going back and thinking, okay, what am I missing? Because I take whenever I don't feel like doing something or something's challenging me, the way I see that is as a signal of what am I not letting go. That's where I've gotten to with that, right? So anytime things come up for me, that's the headspace that I put myself in, and I face whatever I need to face. And it's uncomfortable, right? But I liken it to, I've been, for example, I mean, I've trained and weightlifted over the past 5 years, but more so over the past year. I out of not out of nowhere, but I had never pictured myself doing yoga. And that's a whole nother level of tapping into your energy and your power. So, so breathing, right? Like a little technique is breathing is bringing presence to where you are right here, right now. And actually, just this book came to mind, "The Power of Now" by Eckhart Tolle. Have you heard of it?
I've read that.
Okay. So the practices within that book, right? What he talks about in that book is that, we whenever there's suffering happens because you're either in your story or you're thinking, you're in the thinking part of your brain of what happened or what you think
Yeah.
is going to happen, right? But there really is no suffering in this moment right now. So doing something as simple as bringing presence to wherever you're at, and it starts with your breath. So literally, when you're in wherever you're at, just like taking a deep breath, we forget we're always breathing, but taking that deep breath. And it's I learned this in yoga, just taking like that 4 count. It's like breathing in for 4 and then breathing out for 4, and then noticing something around you that you can bring presence to, and then going from there and resetting. But it's a constant practice, Cara. It's a constant practice of, to say like nothing ever comes up for me and I never ever get upset. That's not true. What
No,
ends
we all
Yeah,
do.
yeah, right. So but here's what I can say. So I let go of vices, right? Like for example, I didn't drink alcohol for a couple years. I'll have a drink here and there, but I have a different relationship with it now.
Yeah.
And I just noticed when I let go of a couple things and just started feeling into it. Before I would have a sip of alcohol, I drink to, and I'm more of like a happy drunk, right? Like I wasn't mean or anything, but I realized that when I would do that, I was in a sense numbing feelings that I probably should try to feel. I noticed that in the couple of years that I didn't drink, right? So, again, it's a constant thing. We're ever evolving. There isn't one little thing that I've done that has fixed it all, but bringing presence to wherever, whatever is coming up, being honest about it, and then practicing
Mhm.
letting it go, you know?
Yeah, I remember it was difficult for me. I quit all the drugs. I quit smoking. I rarely drink. I think this entire year I've had 2 bottles of wine, and I put vodka in my Alfredo sauce. But I don't really but I don't really drink. I drink if there's something to really celebrate, or I really just think it goes with the meal, but I don't get drunk. I haven't been drunk in a very, 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 very long time. I think, for me, when I had to give up smoking, I was smoking a lot of pot for
Okay.
years. And then I moved to cigarettes and it was worse. And I said, okay, I need to stop this. What can I replace it with? And it was a real big struggle because I didn't want to replace it with a type of food or with sugar, especially given that, it causes inflammation and whatever. So I had to think about, what am I going to replace my vice with? And for me, I replaced it with a hula hoop on a yoga mat.
Nice.
So I have a yoga mat outside and I lay on my back and I do hula hooping with my legs. and I do all sorts of different exercises with my hoop. And I get enjoyment out of it. And I have some LED lights around it so that at night when it spins, it looks like something you'd see at Burning Man. It's
That's
really like a flow toy, basically. Yeah, so I have some of that, and I started thinking about, well, let me get into flow arts. So I got some LED poi and different double sticks and things that I can do outside that require me to get into a physical flow of energy, which is a positive habit to get into. And so I replaced a lot of my negative habits with positive ones. And then when that became a thing where I started saying, okay, I'm in too much pain to go outside and exercise and get into the flow, I need another habit. And then I started playing guitar,
ooh.
and it became my creative outlet for days when I was in too much pain to be doing hula hooping with my legs. I could put all my energy into my music and let out my frustration, let out my joy, let out those emotions into the strings and just let it go. And that really became for me the two things, guitar and flow arts, because they're healthy and I don't feel bad about them. They actually bring out the best.
Yeah, you start vibing on what I like to call the truth frequency for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to find it. And I'll tell you how I found the guitar. I was working as a teacher at a music school. I was teaching people how to do animation, but there were music teachers,
Mhm.
and there was a recital, and I saw a 9-year-old girl. She was trying to tune her guitar right before her recital, and she was in front of all these parents, and she wasn't playing her guitar because she needed to tune it. And she was supposed to be performing, she was being recorded and everything. And instead of being scared and instead of being frightened, she listened to her guitar teacher just telling her to calm down, think about the note, let's just get the string right. And then she started playing some Bob Dylan, and I thought, if she can do it, I can do it. I'm gonna pick up a guitar and do it. And my first song was the same song she did.
What song was that? What was it?
It was Knocking on Heaven's Door,
Oh wow.
Bob Dylan.
Did you learn on YouTube? Is that how you did it?
No, so first I worked with my coworkers because there were several guitar teachers. And so I paid them for private instruction, and some of them paid me to teach them what I knew about animation. And for about 6 months, I took private lessons, and then I went to college and did 2 semesters of guitar
Wow.
in college so I could get better at it. And then I hired, I wouldn't say I hired, but I joined a lifetime membership of Breakthrough Guitar, where I learned from guitarists who have all these different exercise drills you can practice to get better. And I haven't watched very much of it, but it is a lifetime membership. So anytime I want to go on there, I can get more instruction, take my creativity to the next level.
That's pretty dope. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wor- I picked up guitar when I was 27 because that's about when YouTube came out, and I learned how to pick at chords and all that, so I can play a little bit. Probably not as good as
Oh, cool.
yeah. I learned like Drake.
I
I learned like
love
Drake
it.
songs and Lil Wayne. That's what I played.
Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, I started playing when I was 27, and I took my guitar everywhere with me for 3 years. That's how I kept up with
Wow.
it. But that opens up a whole different side of your creativity and all that. Yeah, and that's what I hear with everything that you've picked up. Yeah, like when you pick up the healthy habits, how that just contributes. I look at it as it contributes to your healing, is what it sounds like, right? We're always healing. We're always trying to be better.
Yeah, I can honestly say I don't have negative habits. I'm full of good habits. I'm proud of my habits. And it took me a long time to get to this point, but I gotta say I love my habits. I really, really do. I do a lot of really cool stuff to keep myself entertained.
It sounds like it. It definitely sounds like it. Well,
Yeah.
congrats on that.
Thank
Keep
you.
down this path for sure.
Yeah, and I like that you're into yoga too and do the chakras and stuff.
Yeah, that's I mean I knew about the chakras, but I just got a poster that I put up in my room because I wanted to feel into them, like really understand where things are coming from. Yeah, there's so much more peace with everything, but
Have you ever had a Kundalini awakening?
no, what's that? I've heard of that. What is that? I'm not familiar with it.
So
Never.
it's basically like having the best way I can describe it is having an energetic snake coiled that becomes uncoiled from the root chakra. And I have had one when I was really sleep deprived. I went 4 days without sleep. And I was having a lot of spiritual awakenings and having effects from previous drugs and having an awakening, and it was wild. It was very, very wild. My suggestion is if you ever feel like you're losing yourself, always make sure you have a cord to come back to yourself.
Wow. Kundalini. Well, I'm gonna do some yoga tomorrow morning. Well, not like mid morning. I'm gonna go to a class. We'll see. I'll ask the instructor about it.
It's really cool.
Yeah. But it's interesting with the chakras, just realizing how they all yeah. I mean, energy, frequency, and vibration. Secrets of the universe, right? Nikola Tesla.
Do you ever find that when you feel that you're too aware of everything, that the only thing that helps is to put a hat on?
No. But
Well, because if you think about
oh
it, think
shit.
about the
Hold on.
crown chakra.
You know what?
The crown chakra is where we're flying, and the root is what keeps us grounded. And so, if we're flying in our heads and floating, we need to come back
Holy
down. Wearing a
shit.
hat regulates that.
Yeah, that just you know what? I never thought of that.
Yeah, legit.
Wow. Interesting. I literally just got the poster like a week and a half ago. Then I sat there and like
Have
wrote
you-
down the chakras and what all of them are.
Are you familiar with the artist Alex Gray?
No, no, who's that?
Look up Alex
Alex.
Gray. Gray, Gray. He does these psychedelic, almost drug-induced, energetic, geometrical, geodesical, kaleidoscopical energies of people. And I think when you see these pictures,
Hold on, that's hidden.
yeah,
So I've
yeah.
been told by the shamans that again the last time I sat with ayahuasca was 2 years ago, February of 2024. But I was told that she said that I don't say this to many people, but you are the medicine. So when I go and do yoga, they're mini ceremonies for me. It's like I get right back into it, right back into that headspace.
When you do yoga, where do you go in your
I mean, I wake up and do a little quick routine every morning, but I have a studio that I go to. Yeah, I do it in a class setting. It's great. So
Oh, my mic turned off. I'm
you're
sorry.
good. You're good.
I was asking a question, guys. What's going on? I was asking, where do you go when you're not? I'm not referring to the material physical plane, but when you're doing yoga, do you go somewhere in your mind that isn't there, like a place or that you create for yourself, or are you planted in the now of reality?
Yeah, so I discovered that my for my lineage, like I come from chief ancestry. So I get into like this warrior. I get into like this very warrior. It's very similar to when I played football, the headspace, and I was a quarterback, right? So I get back into that type of energy where I can't do all the poses, but for example, like I can stand I can do a headstand and stay there, and it almost feels like I'm standing up, right? Like I
I
can
think
almost
I've seen you do that.
yeah, yeah. So when I'm doing a headstand, it literally feels like I'm standing on my feet. I can go back and forth. Like my
Wow.
feet feel like my hands and my yeah, so you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just everything's very connected. So I feel where, I have really tight hips, for example, and there's still some injuries from football 20 plus years ago that are still there. Because I've only been practicing for a year, but I've been pretty consistent with it. And I can feel all the parts of me that I'm holding on to that I need to let go of and what I need to breathe into. So yeah, it's a very beautiful place to be. But it's a very powerful chief-like warrior. My football days, that's where I go with it. And I'm here in Miami. I'm typically one of the classes have it's mostly females that are in there. I actually saw Robert Breed live in there earlier this year, which is
Oh, wow.
interesting. He blocked me though
Oh,
because I have the reverse K, and they're doing the blocking
oh.
thing.
Don't you hate it when they do that?
Yeah, it was just interesting because I'd never ever interacted with him
Wow.
at all. But I don't know. It was strange. We're obviously connected. It was just weird,
I'll say.
weird, but with everything that we've talked about, I totally can see him protecting his anchor. That's
Yeah.
that's that's what he's doing. So
So I know that you do a lot of handstand yoga, but for myself, I just want to share this with you. I do visualizations where I go to a place that I've created in my mind and I expand upon it over time. So I've created essentially my own world in my mind with all these different portals and buildings and scenes and scenarios and different just everything. I have everything I need there and I go there every night before I go to sleep or if I'm in meditation. And one of the places in this environment is specifically for Kaspa. Uh,
wow,
it's on top of a snowy mountain, and there's one room, and the room is wall to ceiling, lots and lots of monitors with stock visuals, right? The trending visuals and all of that. And they cover wall to wall all these different visuals. And there's everything in there. The white papers are
wow,
framed on the wall.
I love it.
And there's a swivel chair in the middle. And I get to just go in there when I just want to have fun looking at all the numbers and letters and everything related to CASPA. And so I have one room on a snowy mountain just for that. And
That
then I
is
have all these
so
other
cool.
places for that. Yeah. I've got all these portals that go to all these different places, and there's rooms and buildings and islands and spaceships. I've got everything in my little world. But I got this one little split place just for when I want to meditate and just think of Caspa.
That's awesome. I love that. And I've never,
Yeah.
for me, you asked me like, where do I go? I'd never pictured going, like building my own little. That sounds interesting. I may have to try
If you're
that.
gonna
I may
do
have
it,
to steal that from you.
if you're
I
gonna do it, because I'm writing a book on it, if you're gonna do it, I would recommend creating a decontamination room first. And that way, anything that you don't want to be brought into your world never goes into your world when you step in it. So I have a room that I go into. I call it my decontamination chamber. And I just walk through it before I go into my world so that any of my internal demons or shit that I can't let go of, they have to be gone before I enter my space. And that way, there's never any of the negative. It's all perfect.
love that.
Yeah, so if I've had a rough day or whatever, I can step through my chamber, let it go, and then I'm in my world where it's just perfect.
That sounds so dope.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start
I
building
would
that
say
tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna do that in my class tomorrow.
dude, it's so much. And after years, everything just becomes more familiar. And there's places you can build, but also I have like my younger self, she stays in a library with this big screen TV, and I go and visit her. I'm like, "Hi, how are you?" And we hang out because I know she's protected there. No one can touch her, no one can
Oh,
hurt her. She can never be injured again. And when I see her, I'm holding her, or she'll hold me, or if there's times where I'm like, I need to see my younger self, I've had a tough day, she'll turn on the TV and show me something that makes me laugh.
that is so
So
cool.
yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah. I've kind of had to use my mind to take me to different places out of reality to get me through some of the traumas I've had. And it's beautiful. And now I'm finding out there's a lot of science to back it up. And that's why I'm writing a book about it
Oh, that's
because,
awesome.
it, yeah, it plays into neuroplasticity and neurogenesis and the different things that go on with the brain. And now there's even science of veterans who have actually had to use the similar technique so that they could get better. So yeah, this is what I do. And if you ever want to go over any of the places or rooms that you create, I'd really be curious to know what you make. 'Cause I have so many. I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I've never had anybody break it down like that. Again, for me, it's more. I just started meditating was always really difficult for me my entire life up until I started doing yoga about a year ago, and even the first 6 7 months of it was hard for me.
Mm.
So, but with what you're sharing right now, with so I need to go to into my echo chamber and talk about what I don't want to bring with me.
Yeah, like
Cleanse
create
it
a
all
little
out.
room. Yeah, just a room that sucks away all the bad. And that way, when you go into your world, none of that stuff follows you there. And to me, it's my favorite part of entering my happy place. It's going through a little room I've created that takes it all away. And that way, I have the peace of mind when I'm in my happy place that I don't have to think about that being with me because it's not.
I love it.
Yeah. And, I got to tell you, I have a lot of anger that I sometimes want to bring with me. And so I actually created a place in my happy place where I can take a portal and go into a battlefield if I just want to fight.
You have everything over there. Oh my god.
Oh, I have a
It's,
medic station. Yeah, I got
it's gonna take
everything.
me years. It's gonna take me years to build that up, but I don't yeah, I want to start. That sounds great. Sounds so great. I love it.
Oh, it turned off again. I'm sorry. I pressed the off button. I don't remember the last thing you heard.
I mean, you were talking about the different rooms that you go into.
Yeah, there's a food room where I walk into a portal and it shows millions of street vendors all over the galaxy just cooking on the ceiling, on the floor, west, east, north, south. I have an island where I meet people who are not allowed in my safe space, but I still want to hang out with them. So there's an
Oh, yeah.
island that's super, super cool that's next to my safe space where I meet people so that I can feel protected meeting them, but I still have what I have that's sacred. Yeah, I've got just so much stuff. If you ever need ideas, I've got
So what
tons
I have a question. So when you go to these places, how long are you there? Are the
until I fall asleep.
until you fall asleep? Okay. So you typically do it right before you go to bed.
Yeah, because if you look at the science behind REM sleeping and lucid dreaming, there's a lot that goes into how your body feels as you're falling asleep each night. And if you're going somewhere you love and somewhere that's familiar, it reduces your chances of having nightmares and going to bad places. You have a lot more excitement and wonder when you go to bed
Yeah, I got it.
because you're looking forward to it. You make it and you can build it. You can have walls you walk through and trapdoors and secret rooms and caves behind waterfalls and just anything, an aquarium inside of a spaceship that's down in the basement behind the trap door behind the TV or whatever, just anything.
I love all this. Yeah, I'm typically I dream a lot about Caspa and what's going on with Caspa because that's what I'm consuming. most of the
Yeah.
day, you know.
Hmm.
But I haven't been remembering my dreams lately. So this is motivation for me to get in a little routine.
Do you write about Caspa in your journal?
Yes, yeah, I definitely do. A
That's awesome.
100%. Yeah. I don't journal every day either. I mean, I'm writing all day though, going back and forth with thoughts and just going down my little rabbit holes.
I wish I could write like I used to. Now I can only write books. Like I figure if I'm going to write something, I may as well make it where everyone can read it because I feel like there's nothing I can say that's truly safe enough for me to feel like I can authentically keep it private. So anything I write books. So I've published a lot of books.
So you're saying the personal stuff from because it was used against you, or it was
I
read
just
and
don't feel safe to
you
write.
don't
I
think
just
that.
don't feel safe. I don't feel safe to write
Mhm.
anything private. I don't feel like I can be authentic. Just the fact that I know that our stuff is constantly being watched by Big Brother makes me already change my
I
actions
see what
when I
you're
write.
saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I figure if I'm gonna write, make it there where I'm writing it for an audience.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, with that, I haven't really thought about that too much. I know that we're in a sense being farmed, like even being on this space and whatnot, and it being recorded. But
But we chose
we,
that. So the power's in our hands because we know it going into it. And it does actually, in a way, it does alter our actions. We probably would speak and behave differently if we knew we weren't being recorded or being listened to by anyone. But that's just the nature of observers and all of the observer effect in science. You've seen the light and particle experiment, right? Like an observer changes a particle to a wave.
mm, break that down for me a little bit more.
So there's a scientific experiment. I think they call it the red slit experiment. And a laser would shoot a particle across to a wall, we'll say, and it would be a particle. But as soon as it's observed by a human being, it becomes a wave, not a particle. The observer changes the element, it changes the physical properties of the particle.
As soon as it's realizes it's being watched.
Anytime there's an observer, there's an effect that changes
Yeah, there's an
the
effect. Yeah,
property.
the property. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. They proved this in science with the red slit experiment.
Yeah, that makes.
Or I think they call it the double slit experiment. The red thing I'm thinking about is the red shift, which is a time experiment. So I'm talking about the double slit experiment. I misspoke.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The red shift experiment was something else that was proving time travel by having different clocks on different floors of a skyscraper and seeing how time would change for people on the bottom floor compared to the top floor. And
Wow.
so that gets into the time travel that you see when people talk about space and in the movie Interstellar, there's a guy that goes off to space. He ends up leaving, and for every hour that passes, 7 years goes by or something like that. Yeah. They were basing that off of that same sort of time theory. Although I don't necessarily know if I believe in all of the stuff that we're taught about astronomy, I have a lot of skepticism.
Around astronomy.
And I just don't believe a lot of it because I used to work as a scientist and I was lied to, and I just don't believe a lot of the crap they tell us. I just don't believe it. Yeah, I used to have a fellowship well, I don't know. I probably shouldn't say because then it'd be easy to find out if I am. But I was I had a position at a very important place where I studied very important things for
Oh, really?
astronomy. And I know that a lot of this shit is fucking made up.
So you
I got out of it.
you think the signs and all that? I've had like charts read to me and all that. Some of it seems accurate.
You mean like horoscopes and stuff
Yeah.
like that? Wow. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that, but I also have some skepticism about the stars and the planets anyway. So I don't know. I do think that there is some basis in the fact that there are patterns that certain people have when they're born on a certain time. I do think that because I believe in some aspects of numerology. I believe in the numbers.
Okay.
I don't know if I believe so much in the stars and the planets, but I do believe in positioning, which is part of numbers. So I think there is some truth and basis in it. I really do. But I also know that a lot of it's ambiguous and can be subjective. But also anything, so okay, this gets into this whole psychological thing in dreaming. So when someone has a dream, it can either be subjective or universal or both. And the same thing applies to how people are born. There's going to be things that people notice about a person's trait that is subjective to just that person. It's unique to that person. But then there's going to be meanings that can be drawn that are universally understood. So it kind of goes with both. And when people say, oh, well, you're a Leo, you're a Scorpio, you're this, you're that, they're going with universal understandings. But the person who has the subjective experience might say, well, you know what? I am that. I can see where I have those things, but they can also notice about themselves that maybe there are other things too. And yeah, I think a lot of that is just where people know themselves, know thyself, right?
Right. I'm a Leo. Interesting that you said that sign. Because I feel like a lot of the people that have been close to in my life are very similar as well.
I'm a
Oh yeah.
Scorpio.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm all Scorpio. All the things they say about Scorpios definitely applies
That's
to
you.
me. I can't really argue with it.
For me, I feel like I came into my Leo. You know what? A lot of people tell me like, oh, because I guess Leos are known for being brash and cocky. And I tell people that, well, I'm a Leo that's done a lot of work on himself because I
Oh,
don't really,
no.
yeah, I don't really come off like that anymore. But I was when I was, the intensity and all that when I was younger.
Mhm. Yeah,
Interesting.
I'm definitely all Scorpio. Yeah, it's one of those things. But there's other parts of the numbers that have nothing to do with that. Like for instance, in China, they have the year of the ox, the year of the monkey, those types of things. What do they call that? They call it the zodiac. What do they call the wheel?
In China, I'm not familiar with that,
Oh my
but
gosh!
it
I
is
used
it
to
is
do that.
different than what we hear over here.
It's killing me that I can't remember the name of it. I'm gonna have to get this in. Yeah, they just call it the Chinese zodiac. So in the zodiac, I believe I'm a monkey.
Yeah, I'm no.
Yeah,
What
so it
about what
goes by
about
the year that you're born.
what about spirit animals?
I used to have really powerful spirit animals, and when I would tell people, they would freak out and say, "You're not allowed to have them. You're not Native American." So I have changed the language to be, well, these are metaphysical animals that I relate to, rather than calling them my spirit animals, since apparently there's this whole language behind them that belongs to certain cultures that apparently I guess I'm not privy to. I don't know. But for a while, and I'm starting to reconnect with it, my metaphysical attachment animal was the tanuki.
Tanuki. Oh,
The tanuki means good fortune. It is part fox and I think part,
The Japanese raccoon dog. That's what it says.
yeah. So the Tanuki people would put them in front of their restaurants for good luck and good fortune. So it brings money into your life when you have a Tanuki around.
Ah, okay.
So I've been really bringing the Tanuki back. But there was a while that I stepped away from the Tanuki and I was embracing the non-stinging jellyfish from Lake Palau because they're jellyfish they're not a natural predator because they make their own algae, they make their own sugar because of the sun. So they're farmers basically in their own bodies. So they don't have to sting for food. And so I related to that because I wanted to go through life without hurting anyone for any reason as much as I could. And for a while, I was vegan and vegetarian and all of that. And I was really embracing that non stinging jellyfish. But then I really stepped into my panther era
Okay.
and just was a panther. So I was like, fuck that. I couldn't do that very long. I had so much anger built up in me and I needed to have an outlet for it. And the Tanuki is a lot cooler because there's not anger with the Tanuki. It's just good fun and money.
That's awesome.
Money, prosperity, good fortune, all of those good things. What about you? What do you connect with?
With so recently, more so recently, and this is my son's godmother put this on me, but she's like, your spirit animal is a sloth.
Oh, I know somebody who has that as theirs. Yeah.
I mean, I looked it up. Based on my birthday, it's a bat, which I can see. The bat makes sense, but I definitely relate to the sloth. Like I live a pretty sloth life right now. I'm chill, nothing really. Not everything's kind of slowed down. There's an entire ecosystem, that they inhabit. Kind of relates to how I'm running my life and how people depend on me, but I'm good with it. It's
Hmm.
awesome, yeah. So I really and I was, I'm from Panama. I remember seeing them all the time when I was younger down there. It was cool. I saw him. I was just in Panama like a couple months ago, and it was
You just
awesome.
got back?
What's No, no. I went down there. We're in September. I went down there in July, early July, and
Mhm.
actually stayed in a place. So that my father was in the military, and we were stationed down there when I was really young. So I pretty much was raised here in the U.S. But when I went down there, we ended up going to a part that was called the Chief Island too.
Ooh.
So my son's godmother were very known each other for 15 years or so. She's done a lot of the ceremonies with me, the ayahuasca ceremonies.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So it was her and her husband, and I was showing them Panama.
I would love to do Aya one day. I've heard so many stories. I would love to. I mean, not now, not until at least my son is an adult, but eventually I would love to just have an experience that lasts a weekend and just have a safe space to really do that.
I would fly out to my
Mm.
people are over there
Yeah.
in California. My people fly out to Oakland to do it. Really
Are you
nice people.
serious?
Yeah, yeah. My people are out
People
there.
in Oakland do it? I
Yeah.
thought this was something that you can't really do in America.
I believe it's illegal, but it's done in a
But it's
very control.
still okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it's a
I
it's
want
a
to do
tea
that
from the
kind of,
earth. It's not like
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's it's stuff that my ancestors did to heal themselves. It's stuff from the earth.
And that's exactly the thing. And when I did magic mushrooms a long time ago, I wasn't doing it to get high, like drugs. I was doing it to heal, to have some understanding of myself and understand what I'm supposed to do next and how do I deal with what I'm having now. But I would always enter the space as positive as possible to avoid having a bad trip. So I would always try to keep it positive. but I still wanted to understand, like, where am I? Where am I going? Who am I? What do I look like? And then my brain would show me these bizarre, cool things, and some of it you just can't even describe because it's so ethereal and
It is.
esoteric
It
and
is.
all of those things. And everything is personal because you're the only one that can see it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it makes sense to you, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
these are all the things that, going back to like the connection to money and Caspa. These are the things that were taken away from us, right? When we were colonized. And I think, no matter where you're from, like we're all from different parts of our lineages go way back. And I know for myself, especially doing the psychedelics and ayahuasca, and I don't know my biological father, so there was always this
Mm,
disconnect there.
yeah.
But I got sent a son, and I know that he was sent to me because I believe in past lives and all that. And
Really?
oh yeah, absolutely, our souls never die; they're eternal. Oh, I've gone into past lives in my Aya ceremonies. Sounds
What
crazy.
was that like?
It's man, what is that like to put words to it? When you have deja vu, what do
Yeah.
you feel like when you have deja vu?
I feel like the Matrix is glitching.
Yeah, yeah. So when I have deja vu, uh, I feel like I have it all the time because the way I take, again, Aya and getting into plant medicine is so different than doing therapy, right? And I mentioned earlier, like I never trusted therapists, or I've never gone to therapists, but it felt like going through this journey that I went through over the past 5 6 years with Aya, that the all of the answers were instilled in me, and then I find myself going through life, and when things come up, it's almost like, oh shit, like I know how I need to be with this, or how I should go process this, and how I should go about this. It's like the answers are
Mm,
within me. That saying that I said with my son, where I am complete and I have everything in me that I need. Like
yeah.
that came from being in the medicine,
Wow.
you know?
And that's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I never say like I would never recommend anybody to do it, but because it's something that needs to call you. Like I know that it called to me. It just called to me, and it literally healed. I mean, I see it in my family. It literally healed generational trauma. Like I'm the one. I'm the one in my family. I'm the first one in I was born in Panama. I'm the first one that got to the States. There's so much that was thrown at me, and I questioned it for a long, long time. But being in the medicine, it's just like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. And it's never ending. There's always discovery. There's all that, but it's just like I step into this. Like, there's no way I get here. There's no way I get here spiritually, mentally, physically, if I don't take the leap and sit in those ceremonies. There's so much peace that comes, right? Like, there's still chaos that's happening, but there's so much peace in the chaos too.
Like to have peace.
I relate this to. So I had one of those moments when I played football where we were down 7-3. It was homecoming. People were leaving the stadium, and there was a lot, like everybody thought we were going to lose, but I was certain in that moment that we were going to win. And I drove the team down the field. 2 seconds left, I threw the game-winning pass, and we're like turning to the crowd and having everybody rush the field, and I got like propped up on the shoulders of everybody, and that was just like this out of body experience.
Yeah, I bet.
But that entire, that happened when I was 17. That was my first time really having that out of body experience and having peace when it was very chaotic around me, right? So
Are you able to? are you able to reflect on it and instantly feel peace?
That is the feeling that I was. So in one of my Aya experiences, whenever, that story, I could go into detail with it, but because there's a bunch of things that happen on that drive. I almost threw two interceptions. There was a 4th and 17 where it got tipped by two people, and like the guy, my wide receiver caught it just barely. 4th and 17, we gained 18 yards, and then on the last play, I was supposed to throw it to my left, but I knew I needed to throw it to the receiver on the right, and it almost hit my, one of the players, the tight end's helmet. But because I didn't throw a spiral, it was like a very wobbly pass. It missed his helmet. And in one of my IA experiences, I went right back into the drive. The newspaper the next day, it said the drive, my name saves homecoming. But I went back into it in one of my IA experiences and relived it from my body. Where
Wow.
before, when I would tell the story, it was always from the outside looking in. So I say all that to say, those are the little moments, then having people rush the field. And yeah, I dreamt about that moment prior to that plenty of times, right? Like that moment of completeness of achieving something that where everything was stacked against you.
Do you ever recall that feeling that you had from that day? And do you find that it ever gives you relief from any pain that you're having, like chronic pain or
Yeah, I
anything?
just got goosebumps. So here's the thing, Cara. I think being in the or experiencing Aya the way I've experienced it and doing the work that I've done, I literally have access to those feelings whenever I want them.
Beautiful. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So that's what I've been able to discover in surrendering and like in not attaching myself and not holding on to shit and really being in presence. So there's obviously so much work that went into being able to have access to that. But yeah, I really think that's what, at the end of the day, what life's really about. It's about detaching yourself from all the things that you think, like the validation from the outside. Because again, you're complete and you have everything that you need. Everything
So
right there.
do you just think of that moment, or do you have an association that takes you to that moment? Like, do you imagine that you can press certain buttons or something and then you're there? Do you have a process to get to that place, or do you just think of it?
Yeah, I think there's been more so of like I shared earlier, there isn't these steps that I take. There's this energy that I step into and this mindset and this remembering, right? So it's more finding the breath again and just feeling into presence. So being in this moment, right? There's just being in the moment, you know?
Hmm, that's nice. I wish I could do that
You
more.
can. You can. It literally is practicing this stuff and little by little letting go of, again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning of this call, like letting go of some of the stories or the attachments. When you
That's the toughest one. I need something easier. That's
well,
too
the
hard for
the
me right
other
now.
thing the other thing too though is look at how you're talking. Words are super. You brought this to my attention with how much I say like, right? Why do I say
Hmm.
that? It's a pause word. I'm probably a little bit ahead of myself. I'm not right here, right now with the conversation. I'm thinking too far ahead. My words are way ahead of where I should be. Right. So it's the same thing. Bringing everything back
Hmm.
to presence and realizing that this moment is the only moment that really matters. The anxiety or thinking this or thinking that is from the past or you thinking of the future, right?
So, how do you? This seems like a simple question, but for me, it's very difficult. How do you take yourself to a happy present place when you're entering the present place with anxiety that you feel that you're feeling in the present?
So but the question that you have, that comes from the thinking part of us, right?
Right?
So when you're thinking, then the counter of that is getting into the body. So talking about the chakras and all that. So whenever you're thinking, when you say, "Oh, this is difficult," you've probably said that so many times to yourself that you actually believe it,
Agreed.
right? So try if you're open. So Lucy would always say, my foster mom would always say this to me whenever I would come with things at her. She would always be like, "Okay, great, yeah, that is that what you think? Is how's that working out for you?"
That
She would always say that. How's that working out for you? And I would hate it when I was younger.
reminds me of what my friend Carpo would say. He would say things such as,
All right, you want
okay, what are you going to do
to?
next? What's your next step?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So a lot of our suffering comes from us keeping ourselves there with the way we talk to ourselves. So
Yes.
words are everything. Words are so powerful. Words,
Yes. And sometimes when we talk to ourselves, we make it worse because we have to have our narrative said out
there we
loud and it
go.
just
Yeah,
becomes this environment that we're creating because
yes.
we feel we need to let it out. And you're doing it through journaling is which is way more healthy.
Journaling, but also because I don't always journaling, but also this is I did landmark education. I did it several times in a couple different courses, and then I did get coaching from Lucy for a couple of years. But it literally is the practice. I've been doing it for 20 plus years, so this is some of the stuff that I have subconsciously. But another thing that's coming up for me, and this is a landmark. I learned this when I was 20 years old, but I realized that what I'm talking about right now with how powerful our words are, like our words, typically the way people go about speaking, and you don't realize it. You literally you speak yourself into most of anything that happens in your life. And when you start to and when you realize that words are powerful, you can then try this on. You can try. Well, what about if you created your world from your words, right? So instead of being it's like being very conscious of what you just said. Oh, this is typically very difficult for me. Like right there is that there's a different energy behind that, and you're already behind the eight ball with trying to
Yeah.
shift that. So
Yeah.
instead of coming at it like that, you could say, okay, this is typically how it is for me, but I want to try something different. You know,
Oh, I like that.
how about I try to be in my breath right now? Let me come into presence. Okay, let me try to let that go. And then eventually it's I'm gonna let that go. Then eventually you just don't even think about it and you let it go. But it literally is just practicing all of that.
How do you eliminate your self-talk?
Like that, right?
That so you're
It's gonna be
basically
it's
saying, "I'm typically self-talk, but here I'm gonna try to change that. I'm gonna let this go. I'm gonna let my self-talk go, and then I just stop talking."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Your process is gonna be different than my process. Everyone's
Right.
process is gonna be different. But how do you speak to yourself? You have a certain the conversation that we have most of the day is the one that we have with ourselves, right? And most
Yeah.
people aren't even aware that that's happening, but that is constantly happening. So what's that conversation like? You know, and so bringing awareness to that and realizing how am I speaking to myself? Am I being kind? Am I being loving? Treat yourself the way you you want to be treated.
Yeah.
That's where I think that's where it starts. And
That's true.
we ignore that, and then we realize that we're mean to ourselves and we don't really realize it, but it all
Yeah.
starts there.
Usually I'm pretty kind to myself, but today I don't think I was very kind to myself earlier. I have some forgiveness I need to
Okay,
do.
cool, cool. You'll get there. I believe in you. I believe in
Thank
you.
you. Aw.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really powerful. I really appreciate you giving me that insight. I really needed to hear that today.
Yeah, I'm happy we had this conversation. This is the stuff that lights me up, and
Yeah.
and I
And I
forget.
love
I
that.
honestly forget that this is how I've been fortunate to operate like this. But I did get a lot of help. You're right. I was fortunate to have Lucy, and it's never too late. We can always improve anything. Anything.
What do you think Lucy would say about Caspa?
Lucy bought Caspa the moment I told her that I got some.
No way.
Oh yeah.
She's supportive. I'm so jealous.
I have so much. There isn't any there isn't anybody around me in my life that doesn't have Caspa.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh my goodness.
Even my yeah, my I mentioned whoever I mentioned today, like they all have Caspa. A few
Wow.
of them have like a lot, you know, and some of them have just a little bit. But I don't get a lot of resistance with it
See,
with the people that are
I
around me.
avoid bringing it up. So most people I know don't have it, which
Hmm.
I guess I wait for the right time to
We
be
gotta
the
start.
most effective.
The, the best time is anytime. That's the right time. Anytime.
Are you sure about that? Because I
I am
don't know
sure.
about that.
What's that?
I don't know. I mean, there's some people that have different belief systems that, I mean, for instance, I have some very devout Muslim friends, and when I bring up Caspa, they start talking about gambling, and there's a whole
Yeah,
lot
that's.
of,
I mean, you're right. You're right in that aspect. I'm not okay. When you asked about Lucy, like Lucy's my, you know, a foster mom, so it's and she's seen my journey. So it's.
yeah.
I mean, the people that are like close to me and have seen what I've been able to do with my life, it's really easy for them, right? Because I'm an
Mhm.
example.
See, I'm pretty secluded. I don't really hang
Yeah,
around
I
people
well, I
like
was
I
gonna say,
used
yeah,
to.
and I do have friends that you know I do have a couple. I mean, I'm not I don't talk to them on the regular, but there's a couple. But like, yeah, my world right now is you can't get really close to me unless you're having conversations like that. I mentioned
Yeah.
I went to dinner last night with a couple of people. I was out there throwing some passes, being a quarterback, and I was at dinner checking my phone to see if there was a Spaces, and you know I missed that Spaces that you ran yesterday. But yeah, I mean the people that are close to me, I should say, they're the ones that do have Caspa and Bitcoin. But I definitely have friends that
Do you find it easier to buy someone a wallet and just put a little Caspa in there to get them started rather than go through the whole education process?
yeah, that's typically what I'm well, so for example, I have this one friend who I remember talking to him about Bitcoin last year and we got back in touch over the last couple days and he was trying to get me to go to a game for tomorrow. But I'm not going to. And with him, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to have him download the Caspian wallet. Be like, hey, I want your opinion. Just the least amount of words that you can say, and then I'll send him like 10 cents. I'll send him a Caspa.
So here's the thing, Caspian is so easy to use, but my concern is that Google Play will just close them all down because they keep threatening, or at least I hear rumors that they're going to close down all the crypto wallets.
I heard something
So is it
about that too.
really?
I don't. Yeah, I'm not
No.
sure.
So I get scared mentioning Caspian to anyone new because if it disappears, then I have to explain something.
So here's my take on it. Big. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, did you have Bitcoin before you had Caspa, or you mentioned Solana
Yeah,
earlier? Okay.
yeah, I had
How,
Bitcoin.
how long did it take you once you got Bitcoin to really like dive into the space? Did you have it for a long time, or what's the
Okay,
story
so
there?
now you're asking like when I got into crypto. So this is kind of a little story. I'll try to say it as quickly as I can, but I was a fan of Bitcoin when it was $7. I was a huge fan.
Okay.
And I wanted to get it at $7, but unfortunately I was married to a man who would not let me access my own bank account the
Mhm.
entire duration of our marriage. And he kept all the money, refused to let me have access to my own bank account, and I could not put money in a wallet. And I begged him to buy $1,000 of Bitcoin when it was $7. I said, please use my own money to do this, and
Wow.
he never did.
Wow.
And I was furious. I wanted my own sovereignty and I couldn't get it. I tried to get access to my own bank account. I never could. It was living in hell. And I got a Bitcoin wallet in 2015, a few years after that, but I couldn't put any money in it because I didn't have access to my bank account. And it wasn't until 2020 that I was able to escape him with the help of the police. They helped me leave him. and I joined the Safe at Home program and changed my name and everything. And now I'm in hiding from him, but now I have my
Mm.
sovereignty and now I have access to the crypto I always fucking wanted. But I was a fan from the beginning. I was in the space. I was talking about it from the very beginning. I've never left the space. I've never been a skeptic. I was never influenced by rich people. I was just in it. And I always wanted sovereignty. It was always my number one thing that I wanted because I didn't have it.
Wow. So you saw it early.
Oh, I was in it from the beginning. I remember when it went from $11 down to 7 and all the news was saying things like, "Oh, it's over for Bitcoin. It was a big failure." And I remember wondering, this is risky. Do I want to buy $1,000 of for 7? Can I convince my husband to get this for me? 1,000, I think this is gonna do it, and
Mhm.
I wanted him to do it, and he wouldn't, and I begged him. I begged him to do it. I was like, "Dude, I'll do anything, please." Nothing worked. He was just he did not want to make me happy. He was not that kind of person. So, yeah, it was a very horrible thing, and if he would have done it, I mean, I'd have a 11 billion plus today, but, I'm not super angry about that. I'm angry about other shit.
Yeah,
But I know that I'm early with Kaspa, just like I was early with
you are.
Bitcoin.
You're
So I'm not
definitely.
even stressing over that. I stress over other shit, but
Yeah.
not that.
Well, what if
I
what
have my sovereignty.
got you. Well, what if somebody like I don't know what was I'm sure there was. What if somebody had like had you down? I know that you didn't have access to it. So kind of with what we're talking about right now, like there's you have an anchor towards it, and so consider that. Just this is my mindset with it. When I think of, hey, download this wallet, I'm not thinking past, oh, they need to onboard to, to crack and to maybe buy some Casper or anything like that. I'm thinking for me, I had somebody pay me in Litecoin in 2017. So I had to open a Coinbase account because it was like, over $1,000 that they were going to pay me, and I didn't care to learn about any of that because I was making money. What that wasn't in the realm of anything that I gave it, cared about. And then they paid me in Bitcoin. So I was introduced to Bitcoin back then. And I've noticed looking back that had I not gotten it back then, I don't know if I would have looked at it as deep as I did now. Or, for me, my deep dive started in late 2023, early 2024.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have gone into it if it wasn't sitting in my Coinbase account all these years. And for me to see, because in 2021 is when at the highs, I bought a lot of it. I bought a lot of Bitcoin, and I just let it sit, and it
Mhm.
went all the way down. Right at the end of 2022, I was like, oh, okay, it's down. But I remember seeing it go up from like 2017, 2018.
Mhm.
I didn't have a bunch of it, and I just thought of it like, okay, I have investments in all these other places. Might as well throw a little bit more in there, and I did in 2022 when I was at the lows. And then when I had to shut down my business, for me, my situation was, oh shit, I have all this money in a bank account and in my Coinbase account, and I was able to see that the fluctuations. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So for me, that is what prompted me. So the way I see it is like, let me put a little bit in a wallet, and if that 10 cents or that dollar turns into a dollar 50, $2, like they might notice it and they might want to go down their own journey. And if they're around me, they're going to hear about this more, right? It's going to come up organically and naturally. So that's kind of the take
Mhm.
that I take on it. I try not to go any further because you don't know, everybody's situation is different, but at least
Yeah.
getting them to download the wallet. Yeah, you're right. We don't know what's going to happen with the wallets or whatnot, but if it's what I actually Cara, you said you would have had 11 billion. That's about where I would be. I went back.
Really?
Yeah, I went back and looked at
Well,
I went back and looked at every, I have these Excel spreadsheets. I went back and looked at every dollar that I made from 2010, and I'm aware of the prices of Bitcoin all the way back then. I'm like, had I put 80%, 80 to 90%,
mm,
yeah, it would be somewhere in the billions too.
So you and I have parallel people who are billionaires.
Yeah, we do.
That's cool.
I feel like one though. You know
Me too.
that.
I feel like I was already there. I felt
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm already a billionaire. I'm living in poverty.
Yeah, like exactly. That's how it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I actually feel that mindset a lot of the times because I know that I was a believer and I know who I am and I know that it's with me. No one can take it.
I
So I
think you
know my
just
power
oh my
is in
god.
that.
It is the feeling is everything. I literally this is before this was probably a couple months before I had to shut down my business and things were going great. But I did some mushrooms and my apartment where I am, I'm on really high up in a high rise and there was this music festival going on down where I live and the music was just very powerful and I was like tripping and I felt into the energy of what it would be like to be a billionaire.
Nice.
And it wasn't about like having the money. It was the energy of it, of
Yeah.
what the resources are, what I could do. It was pretty dope. But I'm deciding to feel that way regardless of how much is in the cold wallet. I was gonna say bank account. I try to close. I tried to close all those down. I did close
I
all those
love
down.
that. That's really cool. I like
Yes.
hearing that.
Yes.
That's a good feeling. I never saw myself as someone who would hold on to billions. I saw myself as capable of reaching those billions, but that I would give a lot of it away. I would invest a lot in communities. So I've always seen myself as a multimillionaire with lots, but I never saw myself holding the billions. I always saw myself giving it away. And even today, I don't feel like I would accept myself if I made a billion. I would want to stay under a billion on purpose. Like it's what I would choose. I would want to be a very high multimillionaire, but not a billionaire. And part of it's because a lot of the billionaires get targeted, and there's been a lot of Bitcoin billionaires that have faced horrible deaths. And I don't want to be targeted. I just want to live rich and everyone leave me alone.
Yeah, I'm in that same energy. I mean, I've in fiat world I did pretty well. So it's like, like I shared it earlier, right, during the call where I never 6, 7 years ago, the goals weren't, oh, I need to make this amount or I need to do this or I need to do that. They started to be, how am I going to be when I show up? How am I going to talk to, what's the energy going to be like when I'm around these people? And that shifted everything and had all the money that needed to come in.
Hmm.
And it's a great
Yeah,
feeling, but
before,
it's like,
yeah.
you ever hear, Jim Carrey, like how he talks about, I love Jim Carrey because he had something that he said, like for me, I shared it on a post, right? That's what I shared with the community that on paper, became millionaire officially in 2023, September. And life was good, but like nothing really, I already been vibing like in this great energy in my life anyways, but I'm like, this isn't everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I have more resources. I can probably do a little bit more, but it's not about that. I feel the same way as you. It's just like I'm not here to keep all this. What am I going to
Mhm.
use it for? How am I going to serve people? That's that's richness. Like that's being wealthy in my
Yeah.
in my book. You know.
Before I got married, I was very wealthy. I had
Mm,
lots of money. I had my own house that I purchased on my own. I was rich. I had more money than I knew what to do with. And I married someone who used me for all my money so I could never have it again. And they made sure that when I left, I didn't have anything. I didn't have
wow.
any. And he took everything. But because I thought that his words were true, I thought that all those sweet words were true, and they just weren't. And by the time I trusted him, it was too late. I could never get anything ever again.
Mm,
But there was a time I was super, super rich. And I remember there were times when people would ask me for money and I would just give it like it was nothing. And I remember going, what am I going to do with all this money? Right. And I didn't spend it on things that I would spend it on now. Cause I mean, now I would probably spend some of it on plastic surgery just so I could look cuter. But I didn't even think of those things back then. I would just let the money sit and do nothing with it.
Really?
Right. And then this was before Bitcoin.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
This was before Bitcoin came out. This was before I lost my sovereignty.
Hmm.
So I had everything. And then, by 2008, that was it. I had nothing. I couldn't access anything anymore. So, yeah, I know what that's like, when you're living at the top and you're doing real well and you're wondering what you're going to do with your money. And I've lived that. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be really rich. I know what it's like to be poor. And now I'm living what they call pre-rich, right?
Pretty rich.
Because I know, yeah, because it's right there with Caspa. So I'm just kind of stepping into that rich mentality again, but approaching it with so much more humbleness now and so much more clarity and caution and just looking at everything differently.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the shift for sure that happens when you realize what this is, right? What Caspa Bitcoin bring to the world. Because I had no awareness around how much things cost. Because when you're doing good, you don't think
You're
of
not
any,
even looking at the price tag.
you're not thinking of any of that. And then
Yeah,
it's like, I've shared it before on other spaces calls that I've run, but being able to relate to my family has been one of the
yeah,
most beautiful things, right? It's just like, oh, okay. I see why you guys didn't have a chance. I understand now, you know,
yeah.
but it's way better over here. So
That's good.
for sure.
I think that's really cool. And I'm looking forward to you and Lucy both reaping the rewards from all of this Caspa that's coming. That's here and is
It's
still
here.
coming.
It's
There's
here.
more,
Yeah.
it's here and there's more.
There absolutely is. Yeah. We're on the sound money standard in this family for sure. So it's only yeah. But yeah, the energy again is gonna be more towards what can we do with this? How can we serve people and building community around that, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Juan. Well, it's reaching midnight over here, and I think it's 3 in the morning where you're at. I
Yeah.
think this might be a good time to start
Yes.
winding it
My
down.
yoga class is in until 11 or 10 for me, so I'll sleep good. I'm gonna try the
Okay.
dreaming the thing that you said. Yes.
Good, good, good. Yeah, I think you'll love that. It's so nice.
Awesome. Well, great speaking with you.
And thank everyone who listened. Great to have you here, and thanks for just being along for the ride. And I hope that some of you got some value out of this, hopefully. And we'll see you all next time.
Good night.
Good night.